the Chase Thomas Podcast, for people who have nothing but time to kill.
That's what it is right now, sir.
There you go. Well, we hit a little bit of Georgia here at the top, so we'll save Georgia for a second. Let's get into the Vols, Matt Green, and what happened here. The Vols beat the other Bulldogs here 33-14. I've never seen this before. Jeff Levy coaches in jeans. Have you seen a coach in jeans?
No, I have not.
Jeff Levy was wearing some denim blue jeans here on the sideline. Never seen that before.
Would you rather have your coach in jeans or a tie?
Probably a tie.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the tie personally. PJ Flegg, he can pull it off. I feel like he's got a certain a certain swagger about him, but I don't know. I would rather my coach. I like the basketball revolution of coaches, just in like athletic polos, or maybe I'm partial to the athletic polo.
I mean, they're doing polos. They're doing the quarter zip. It's a quarter zip revolution.
Or just being something kind of comfortable and some sneakers. You're on a basketball court. Like, I don't know why you gotta be in a.
Well, I think that's okay. I mean, I've been someone who's rallied against managers in baseball wearing the uniform. It's ridiculous. It's one of the silliest things I've ever seen. Like, we got
a lot of guys just rock like a hoodie and the pants, and then maybe like some, just some regular shoes. But yeah, Bobby Cox was rocking the spikes for sure. It's like, you're not coming in the game, Bobby. I don't know why you need the spikes on.
I mean, that's what I'm saying. It just, I don't know. It's when I was in the Masters, you see people like in the spikes with their shoes, like the actual golf shoes. Like, you're not getting out there, my guy.
They might need you.
Yeah, like I don't know. It's maybe a hot take of mine, but yeah,
keeping a basketball in your car, in case there's a game picks up, you're ready, you're just ready. Yeah, who knows? Someone's going to ask you to tee off on a celebrity shot here at Augusta National. Got to be ready.
That's true. The one thing I will allow is like if you bring in a glove to a baseball game, that's fine. That's Chase Thomas Podcast approved. Like if you catch it, fly ball, that's cool. You take it home. Like just to make sure you don't have to barehand it and drop it and things like that. Like I get that. I'm okay with the glove. That's the one thing I'm okay with. I'm okay with the glove.
Yeah, I'm not gonna rain on anyone's parade. I feel like as an adult man, just by yourself or a group of friends, and you bring the glove, seems kind of weird. You're there with like a kid, and y'all both bring your gloves. Like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But I don't know if you're just like
probably a little bit
you and your buddy
you're
are going
out with the fellas. Like, I don't think I'm bringing the glove if I'm out with the fellas.
You bring your glove.
Yeah, it's probably not happening. Yeah, there's context for all of this. I feel like I'm on a Curb Your Enthusiasm episode right now. Well, Matt Green, all of that to say, Vols beat the Dogs 33-14 here. There's a lot to unpack from this game from my side of things. So Nico Iamaleava had a great first half. He's played 8 consecutive quarters of really good football now, dating back to the second half of the Alabama game to the end of the first half here against Mississippi State. But he exits the game with an upper body injury. He doesn't come back in the second half at all. Dante Thornton left the game late. He had a great game. He had a big 74-yard touchdown reception from Nico in the second quarter of this game. Javonte Spraggins, the right guard, he gets banged up, comes in and out. Andre Carrick, the left guard, he does not play in the second half. Dylan Sampson knocked out of the game for a little bit. He comes back in and has another great second half. But Tennessee's been pretty fortunate through the course of this season in terms of injury luck outside of Keenan Peely. They're starting middle linebacker who was lost a few weeks back in the Florida game. They've been relatively healthy, and you hope you can withstand that for as long as you possibly can in the sport. But the SEC, regardless of who you're playing, it's just physical, and this was another physical game for Tennessee against Mississippi State, and guys were getting banged up, and Tennessee was down a lot of guys, and they were down their number 2 running back, Deshaun Bishop, who got hurt last week, so he doesn't play in this game. But the injury started to add up here a little bit for Tennessee, especially on offense. So it's not really what you want going into Georgia week, but Georgia got banged up with Ole Miss on Saturday, so they're licking their chops as well, playing a physical game in the rain in Oxford. So both teams coming in, and that's something I thought about coming into this week in our pick'em for later on, is just that both the Vols and the Dogs, the Georgia Bulldogs, that is, they're coming in wounded and beat up, and we'll see what the injury report and the availability report looks like in the middle of this week, because I'm very curious to see who's in, who's out, who's questionable, who's not for both sides here, but especially on the
Not a
Tennessee
week
side of
I was
things.
crazy about College Game Day coming to town. I was like, oh man, we're not looking our best right now.
I mean, neither is really looking their best. Like, I mean, we'll see. Fingers crossed on Nico that he's able to go and everything's okay there. But that's still a TBD until. I mean, Heupel said he expects him to be able to go on Saturday in the post-game presser, but you didn't see him the whole second half. So you never know. You don't 100% know what's going on there. So fingers crossed that is the case and that he is ready to go from the get-go on Saturday. But Gaston Moore, I think, was fine. But Nico had 2 big explosive plays in this one that I thought was huge through the air. Vols score on the opening drive for the first time in a while, so they were finally able to get over that because they've been able to drive the ball down the field, but it's been fumbles, this, that, and the other. They've not been able to do that. The defense, though, to me, Matt Green, is probably it's not even like, I'm not saying it's a panic button, but you've been able to run on Tennessee's defense the last 2 weeks. Kentucky gashed this team last week. Mississippi State ran the ball well. Both their top 2 backs averaged 6.3 yards per carry in this one and really gashed this front 7 a little bit. So that's something to monitor, but I don't know what that means against Georgia because, like you said, Trevor Etienne doesn't play much in this game. Nate Frazier has his fumbling issues. In years past, this would have spelled doom to kind of be struggling to stop the run over the last couple weeks with the date against Georgia, but that's not really how Georgia's played and not really how they're made up this year. So I don't know if it's actually a big cause of concern going into Georgia week that Tennessee's struggling to stop the run because Georgia hasn't really utilized that, right?
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's kind of how people talked about LSU this past week. Like Alabama's kind of been able to get run on at times, but LSU's not the team that's been able to utilize to kind of take advantage of that weakness. So yeah, I'm interested to see how Georgia attacks Tennessee next week. Because that's one of the things I found interesting about this game was, what was it, 23-14? So it was that late third quarter.
Yeah.
So like Mississippi State was kind of making it close. The fact that they were able to run the ball the way they were, that was probably the most surprising thing to me. But I mean, you had your backup quarterback in there, ended up pulling away in the fourth quarter. So it never really got too close. It felt like they were probably on the way to having that kind of, I don't know, like offensive, just like breakthrough game. Like I don't even know how to describe Mississippi State. Like they are that game. They're the get right game, right? Like I think that's when Georgia had one of their better games. Carson Beck threw for 450 yards. So we'll see. It looked like Tennessee was on the way to doing that to Mississippi State, but it's hard to even know what to take away from the Mississippi State game because this team's just been so bad all year. They're just at the bottom of like every statistic in the entire conference.
But not on offense. They've got some juice on offense. I think Van Buren's a good player. I think Van Buren's going to be a good quarterback with Levy and company. He impressed me. The stats won't show it, but Van Buren, I think, was solid as a true freshman in that spot. And I think he's shown flashes this year. I wouldn't be surprised if Van Buren's good for Mississippi State next year or the year after. I think if they give him time, I think he's a good fit for what Levy and that scheme's trying to do. So I would buy some Van Buren stock at Hail State. But the final thing I'll say, and this is kind of like one of those things because I think Tennessee fans have really struggling with this, and I understand because like the offense, like you said, looked like it was finally about to break out in the first half because Nico has the long pass to Thornton, he has the opening bomb 34-yarder to squirrel out of the slot, score in your opening possession. Nico ran the ball well, like it was just all starting to look pretty comfortable and look pretty easy for Tennessee offensively. And then he gets knocked out of the game and he's not in and we don't see him in the second half and just everything's a little bit more discombobulated. Thornton goes down. You're like, oh my God, Sampson goes down. You're just like, man, we could never just have it all coalescing together at the same time this season. And the defense is so good that it just hasn't really mattered for Tennessee all year long. But I think the thing that's just kind of wild that you take for granted when you just win like this, I mean, Heupel's 11-1 in SEC games at home since the start of the 2022 season, Matt Green. Like, it's just, you were wandering the wilderness for over a decade, and it's just kind of you got to go through some stats where it's like the guy's lost one home game as a whole since the start of the 2022 season. He doesn't get upset ever, not like emotionally, just like the team does not get upset. Like Tennessee outside of the Arkansas game, those just don't really happen to Tennessee. Like it's just at South Carolina 2 years ago.
Arkansas, South Carolina. There's been
I'm
some
just saying those
upsets in
don't
there.
happen. Like they're not a common occurrence. Like you don't have to be on like upset alert or Tennessee's overlooking so and so. Like he is by and large he's raised the floor so high at Tennessee through his almost 4 complete seasons now, that you just kind of take it for granted, where you're like, oh, another perfect home season in SEC play for Tennessee.
I will say everyone's an upset alert these days. Like he's definitely raised,
but not
the
Tennessee
floor.
at home.
Like,
Tennessee at home is just not. They just take care of business.
Florida was at home, right? Like
They
that
beat
was
Florida. No, they've never lost to Florida at home.
No, but I'm saying the thing went to overtime. Like
yeah, but I'm saying they won both. He's won both games against Florida at home, and you used to never be able to beat Florida like that. Like he's beaten Alabama his both times at home. Like he's beaten Alabama both times in Neyland Stadium. So I just think that's something that I wanted to shout out Heupel here, is that he has protected home field better than any Tennessee coach has since Fulmer. And I think that's just because Neyland Stadium is such a weapon when used correctly, because of how big it is, because of how loud it gets. You should have this kind of success.
With great power comes great responsibility.
Right. I mean, that's honestly the truth when it comes to Neyland Stadium. And because it's Neyland Coliseum. It's not really a stadium. It's a Coliseum. So, yeah, I don't know. Shout out to Heupel for
some say better than the Coliseum in Rome. I've heard some say that.
Many have said that who've done both at the same time.
It's funny, though, how thin the line is, because if they did lose that game to Florida in overtime, this would be the biggest game of Heupel's career coming up at Georgia. Because they kind of were expected to take that next step, and then, this might be a 3-loss team now. Sitting here at 1 loss going into the Georgia game kind of feels like, as a Tennessee fan, other than the way the SEC's gone, because you don't know if you're getting in, you were I feel like we were sold this bill of goods as SEC fans. We went 10-2. We're getting in the playoff, damn it. That's what everyone said. But so Tennessee sitting here probably hey, 1 loss going into the Georgia game, a game at Georgia that we probably all chalked up as this is probably the loss on the schedule, and that would be the 2nd loss. We're in the playoff. And I think they reasonably, especially if Alabama continues to win, they reasonably should think that their 10-2 is strong enough to get in the college football playoff. But if that Florida game goes differently, and it's lose to Florida again, now I lose to Georgia, I feel like the Heupel tenure might feel a little shakier.
I don't think it's shaky. It's just more of you know what's going to be annoying is if Tennessee finishes in the CFP rankings this year 10-2, and they're the 13th, 14th team and just left out. And then in 2022, if
11 or 12, and then 2 of the automatic qualifiers.
Well, that's what I mean. Just out. They're one of the first ones out, right? It's what I'm saying. And it's if it was a 14-team playoff this year, you're in, but it's a 12-team. And then in 2022, if it's a 12-team playoff, Tennessee's in at 10-2. You would have made the playoff 2 years ago. So it's just that would be very frustrating. It's they're with just the playoff model that it is, and just kind of the way things have shaken out, that I don't know, you've had these 2 really, really good seasons here in your first 4, and you might have 0 playoff games to show for it, depending on how things break here down the stretch. But I don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, because there's still a lot of football to be played. There's still a lot of opportunity ahead of them. And like I said, if Tennessee beats Georgia this weekend, they're in. That's all that matters. But they don't, they're going to need some help, I think, based on how things have unfolded here over the last couple weeks. Well, let's pivot here to the Dogs, Matt Green. They go down at Ole Miss here. I want to first ask you, though, what was the biggest reason, now that you've had 24 hours to think about it, the biggest reason Georgia lost this game?
I think you have to put this on the offensive line more than anything. I mean, other than if you're trying to blame Georgia, because I put it more than anything, I put it on Ole Miss's defensive line for just dominating this game. I don't know if you saw the one.
Nicely done, nephew. The Chase Thomas podcast. Hell yeah.